Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa. Rip and read. Check this out.
This is the Rip and Read featuring Curtis Sliwa.
Talking about.
Now to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa. This is the Rip and Read.
I promise myself to treat myself and visit a nearby tower. And climbing to the top, will throw myself up in an effort to make clear to whoever what it's like when you're shattered, left standing in the lurch at a church where people are saying, my God, that stuff, she stood him up. No point in us remaining. May as well go on as I did on my own, alone again, naturally.
Classic Gilbert O'Sullivan, Alone Again, Naturally. Rico Radabali, who's on the boards, who's been at WABC as long, if not longer than yours truly. That's more than 35 years. Who has not only operated almost every facet of responsibilities in production, pre-production here at WABC, on air, off air, and probably the greatest performance you ever gave was as the phone screener, and the guy who kept Bob Grant, the king of talk radio, elevated during his many years of great broadcasting here at the original WABC. But I play this song as a result of what, for many people, is not the happiest of occasions each year. And this happens for Christmas for many people. New Year's, when people celebrate the coming of a new year. Could be Mother's Day or Father's Day. It reminds you of your mom or father dearly departed. It makes you very sad, feel somewhat lonely. Maybe your birthday, nobody's around, and especially Thanksgiving. Because everything you might be watching on TV, everything that you're listening to on this, your home away from home, WABC, is about family, friends, getting together, a festive occasion, being thankful for what you have. And I think I realized in many of my down moments, especially when I was coming out of Cornell, well, it wasn't Cornell, Columbia Presbyterian, after suffering chronic Crohn's disease and being on the verge of maybe not being able to live life any longer because it is debilitating. Let me let you know, for so many people who are gorging and enjoying themselves and eating all kinds of foods, so many Americans suffer from stomach issues, what you call the down below issues, colitis, ileitis, chronic Crohn's disease. People suffer, and they suffer in silence. And I was lucky because my wife with me, Nancy, was able to take me through all of those tough times, including during the post-surgery, the recovery, when finally I had a sense of normalcy returning. But at least I had somebody to return to my apartment with. And we made a vow on that occasion that every holiday here at WABC, rather than just be with family and friends like so many others who have that opportunity, we would devote our time to being with all of you, really our extended family here at WABC. And I've met many of you over the years, especially on a day like today in our Northeast region. It's dark, it's dreary, it's drizzly, it's like you feel the winter coming in. For some of you, as you age, you are feeling it right in the marrow of your bone, the dampness. Normally it's a nice sunny day. There's a snap to your walk, but now you're maybe feeling a bit old and tired. Maybe you're single and lonely. So many of our listeners who are sight challenged, who are blind, and are so dependent on radio. So for many, many years, WABC, as iconic the call letters that it had been, you listen to it Monday through Friday, turn it off the rest of the weekend because it was all infomercials. Forget it. Nonstop infomercials for the kinds of medical issues that you'd rather not be confronted with. And then with the resurrection, the rebirth of WABC to becoming the number one station in the nation by day from coast to coast and number one at night all over the world, with live and local programming always. None of this best of, which is really worst of. It's regurgitated. It's recycled. It probably wasn't good the first time, Rich, and I certainly don't want to hear it the second time. But when I came out of that hospital and I was convalescing at home with Nancy and all of our cats that Nancy rescues from the shelter system almost right before they are expected to be euthanized, as they call it, destroyed as I see it. No need for that, but they do it anyway. And then surrounded by all of that joy, all of that love, I say, you know what we have to be able to do from now on, as long as we're able to. We have to be able to come on the airwaves and deal with people's social isolation. Not because they want it, but because it's the fate that unfortunately they are faced with for any number of circumstances. So we're keeping that tradition alive. Today, normally Nancy would be in the studios with me here, but she's ventured out into the middle of Leave It to Beaverland, Father Knows Best, Little House in the Prairie, somewhere in Pennsylvania where there are more deer, more possum, more raccoons, more squirrels than people, to be with her mother, her stepfather, and her brother, and to enjoy a festive family Thanksgiving. And I become sort of the Yankee here at WABC, but just so that all of you know, both Sliwas are in the house here. Nancy may be in Pennsylvania. I'm here in the Tower of Power, WABC. But we're not shirking our responsibility. So, Nancy, we keep this tradition alive that we started. What year was that? How long ago was that?
So I think the first year I was on with you was 2018 for Thanksgiving, and then it's been every year since then.
And remember how important it was? I can remember sitting there. I could barely function. It was soon after the surgery. It was a tough recovery. We had Anthony, who was in the studio with us, who this year miraculously survived that vicious beatdown in the streets of the Upper East Side, thanks to his his stepfather, David Patterson, jumping in to keep him out of really bad harm's way. But he was there with his friend Hamza, who ironically was here from Iraq, who was the son of a delegate to the United Nations, who shared with us how wonderful it was to be in the United States for Thanksgiving. And it just lit people up. There were people that were calling in from all across the country who unfortunately were single or alone or weren't able to be with family or friends or were sight challenged, blind. And we did it that one day, and we've done it ever since.
Yeah, I mean, and that was obviously for you, it was such a motivation because you really wanted to get back on air to be able to share the day with everyone. So even though you were only a couple days out of the hospital when we first went on air together, it was, that was a force that helped you get it better, I think, because you knew that people were waiting to hear you. So it was really nice.
And then to know how many people were dependent on us to hear a live and local program on these kinds of holidays when they're forced into social isolation. Some people, they don't mind being by themselves. It's their nature. They prefer to be by themselves. They function and they adapt well. But for the vast majority, especially during holidays, that's not the case at all. The society has a celebratory mood, and rightfully so. Everything stops. People don't work. Stores are closed. But for so many shut-ins we're really their only outlet. Their only outlet of anything live and pertinent and important that touches their consciousness and touches their whole sense of being.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it's such a nice thing to be able to share the holidays with the listeners because they do value hearing a live show as opposed to just having a replayed broadcast. So you can, you're there together at the same time. I mean, there's a camaraderie in it that feels nice.
So give us an idea of what it's like in what is the traditional part of our listenership. Even though we're in the biggest city in America, New York, this is not an urban station. When you look at the analytics of who are all the people who have made us the number one station in the nation by day, number one at night across the world, it's really people who live in the suburbs, the rural areas who surround New York City, places like where your mother lives now. Give me an idea of what it's like out there on this Thanksgiving.
Well, I mean, again, obviously you have a lot of people who've come together. You can see, families gathered in the sense there's a lot of, cars in different homes. But, for the most part, it's kind of a little bit of a rainy day still here. A lot of animals are outside. Obviously not too many people, but you see the Christmas lights up. Obviously, as I was driving here, you could still see a lot of signage from the presidential campaign. So it seemed a little equally balanced from what I could see in the write-up.
Well, wait a second. They still have signage up. Don't they know the election is over?
No. Well, I mean, I guess they're still showing their support for whoever they voted for. So, you still see it like proudly displayed on a lot of lawns, which is kind of cool.
And what was the traffic like getting there into the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania?
You know what? Thankfully, it was very, very quiet. I left very early because I had dropped you off this morning at work, so I was able to start my venture around 6 a.m. And aside from the getting out of New York City and all of the setup for the parade where they closed down a lot of different streets, other than that, it was pretty good. It wasn't too trafficy. It was nice.
So you didn't run in.
Travel time.
You didn't run into any of the Amish in their horse and buggies,
No, no, not on the turnpikes. They tend to not go on those things.
And you're with your mother and your stepfather and your brother today. And I remember having a conversation with your mother early on when we first met, and how she said your love of animals, which is what you're best known for here at WABC. You host the Animal Welfare Hour, which is Sundays 10 to 11. Your work in rescuing animals and socializing them and keeping them alive and then adopting them out and working with people all over the world who do similar work. She said at a very young age, when you were out in Bohemia in Suffolk County, you took to the animals right away in the fields. You were like the female version of Dr. Doolittle.
Well, yeah, it helped, too, that my mom worked at a veterinarian hospital. So I would get the opportunity to see some of the animals up close and personal on the weekends if I would go with her sometimes. So, it's almost like having your own little private petting zoo. It was for a kid to be able to see that many animals is quite an experience.
Yeah, it's interesting. I oftentimes tell the story of the horseshoe crabs that I grew up with at Plum Beach along the Bell Parkway when I thought they were old German World War II helmets that came up onto the beach.
Yeah.
But now it's an endangered species, and Jane Goodell
yes,
has come to the aid of the horseshoe crabs as she did with Gorillas in the Mist.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what you need a lot of times for these really important animal issues. You have to have a lot of people, pounding the drums about what needs to be done. So I'm glad to hear she's behind it because, something's going to happen now.
Well, we'll definitely discuss that Sunday night on the Animal Welfare Hour. But I want to give everyone an opportunity out there, wherever you might be, whether you happen to be lonely or you happen to be happy and sort of like singing in the rain like Gene Kelly, to be able to call in on this, what is generally a family-oriented day, Thanksgiving. Because our family is you. All of you listening out there, especially many of you who have newly arrived from WCBS 880 AM. Used to be all news, suburban news, the best. It was the best in providing suburban news. And it went dark. They converted to all sports as if we don't have enough sports stations. and they're no longer there, and they've come over to WABC. And WOR, which lost its morning show, the industry is in trouble in other locations because they've lost their connection to live and local radio. They've gone all syndicated radio all the time, and it doesn't have the same personalized effect as a live and local show. So we welcome all the new listeners from WOR, all the new listeners from WCBS AM 880 to call in. This is what we do. This is our tradition. This is the Nancy Curtis Sliwa tradition. On all of those holidays when many of you are shut in, you have nobody else to be able to talk to other than yours truly. Our numbers, 1-800-848-9222. That's 1-800-848-WABC. There's no time for political talk. I've already seen some of these shows. They're sort of recycling everything. Hey, give it a break. We don't need to hear Trump, no Trump, no. We need to hear about life. We need to hear about you. We need to connect with you because the vitality comes on what is the most intimate form of communication that has ever been created in this world. Some say by the Italian Marconi, others say by the Serbian Tesla. Radio, the most intimate form of communication ever created. 1-800-848-9222. That's 1-800-848-WABC.
At 77, it's Thanksgiving time.
New York's talk station with the king of New York. Curtis Sliwa, 77 WABC. Now to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa.
Look at all the lovely people. Look at all the lovely people. Eleanor Rigby picks up the rice in the church where a wedding has been. Lives in a dream, waits at the window, wearing the face that she keeps in a jar by the door. Who is it for? All the lonely people. Where do they all come from? All the lonely people. Where do they all belong? Father Mackenzie, writing the words of a sermon that no one will hear. No one comes near. Look at him working, darning his socks in the night when there's nobody there. What does he care? All the lonely people. Where do they all come from? All the lonely people. Where do they all belong?
Oh, classic song. The Beatles, Eleanor Rigby from Yellow Submarine. Almost felt like you wanted to be in a yellow submarine today at certain points with the downpour. It didn't keep the tourists away who spend all year preparing for their trek to New York City to see the annual Thanksgiving Day parade. I mean, it is their mission in life to come, maybe take in a show, go to a restaurant, realize that the hotel that they wanted to stay in was twice the price because the other hotel rooms are occupied at our expense for the illegal aliens that we didn't invite here, I guess. But for the most part, the parade went on, and hopefully the memories will return to parts of America where people... See, we take this for granted being in New York City, but for them to come to New York City once a year for the parade is like traveling to Mecca, Medina. It's like a pilgrimage. And yet, in all those faces, as friendly faces dominate, you know there are a lot of lonely people. I see them in the subways all the time. I see them in the streets. You can tell them. You can tell they're alone. And yet, they soldier on in these times. It's a great joy to many, a tremendous desolation and isolation. And that's why this radio station is so important. With Nancy today with her family in Pennsylvania, and me right here in the Tower of Power, sitting here in the catbird seat at WABC. So let's go right to the phones, Nancy, to Thomas, who's calling from Long Island. Happy Thanksgiving, Thomas.
Thank you, Curtis and Nancy. My daughter's name is Nancy.
All right.
So my grandmother was Nancy L. Haas. My daughter is Nancy W. Haas.
That sounds about right. My mom's Nancy as well.
I'm thinking about my grandmother today because I'm thinking about my grandmother today. I miss her so much. But when my daughter's in North Carolina, she called me in New York and said, "Dad, Happy Thanksgiving." And it reminds me of the days when my grandmother was making the manicotti. No turkey because the turkey went in the refrigerator and in the freezer. We ate the Italian meal.
That's right. And Thomas, that's what it does. A holiday like this conjures up those memories when maybe you would sit at the table with your very extended family and friends. And then suddenly you're sitting at your table now with a Swanson TV dinner of turkey and mash. Like it's happened to a lot of people. A lot of people, and they wonder, where did those days go? It's sort of like, it's almost like you're desperate to recapture that exciting celebratory holiday of your youth. And you can't do it because there's nobody to look at, nobody to talk to, nobody to socialize with, except right here at WABC. Our number is 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Pat in Westchester. Your turn to be heard.
Hi, Nancy. Your wife is wonderful. I just want to say, my sister-in-law is named Nancy. Her daughter owned a pet shop at one time. She has 27 cats.
Wow.
That are in and out of the house. They go out during the day. They come back. She lets them in at night, and they all get along.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Oh, yeah. Well, you see them. They come to the door, and she's Pat. I don't have the heart not to take them in and feed them. They all get along, and it's sad what our country's coming to. That's all, And I always wanted to say this on the air, especially to you, Curtis. I wish they would play Kate Smith more. God bless America.
Well, let me tell you, Pat, your wish is what I have desired over and over. This has been a burning issue with me. As Nancy is a tried and true Yankee fan, I am a tried and true Yankee fan. I lost the verve. I lost the feel for my beloved New York Yankees for all the years. I'm 70 now. But when they made a decision to no longer play Kate Smith, God bless America, during the seventh inning stretch, which was the wish of George Steinbrenner Sr. in the aftermath of 9/11, he goes, every seventh inning stretch, I want only the original Kate Smith, God bless America, forever. And they destroyed that pact. Oh, my God, the wrath of George Steinbrenner Sr. is going to be upon anyone who made that corporate decision. But we'll play it. We'll play it towards the end of the show because she is so right, Nancy. You know how angry I got at the Yankees over that. I haven't gone to Yankee Stadium since. I haven't gone since.
I know. That was a sad day.
And I won't. Let's go, if we can, to Nancy, your namesake in Brooklyn. Your turn to be heard here on WABC, Nancy.
Hi, Curtis and Nancy. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Hi. I wanted to say those three things. Number one, happy Thanksgiving. Number two, Curtis, I love you. I voted for you. I will vote again if you run. And I remember you when I was a child, when I was about 10, middle school. I went to Dewey Junior High School. John the Cop.
Oh, sure. I remember that.
Yeah, I knew you'd remember him.
Yeah.
The La Familia, the Rican Saints, all of them. I lived on 49th and 5th, so I actually bumped into you quite a few times. So I just wanted to say, hey. And Nancy, I hit you up once on Instagram or TikTok, one of them, about animals. I was a vet tech for 15 years. And
oh, wow. Very cool.
Yeah, it is. Thank you. I loved it. I'm a little, basically, I'm disabled right now, but I have a colony of cats in the backyard for 10 years. And I have 4 cats inside because they give birth. I take the ones that are going to die, and they make it. So I have 4 cats, but I'm hoping to move, like everybody else wants to run from New York City. I'm hoping to move within, like, the year. And I'd give a generous donation if there was a reservation. And you said you would get back to me, but I know you're busy. I know that. If there was some sort of reservation that if when the time comes, if I can catch these, because they're all friendly. I can pet them. I can pick them all up.
Oh, you want to fix them, you're saying?
Oh, I fixed them. No. I knew it in space.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for home. Like, nobody's ever going to take them. When I leave, I live in Bensonhurst, so you can imagine.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Nobody's going to take the cats. Let's put it this way. Nobody's going to feed them. Nobody's going to take care of them.
Well, I'll tell you what, Nancy, what we'll do is get her information. I remember getting it once before, Nancy, but we did get overwhelmed with so many other offers in terms of trying to help people out with their needs. One thing this past presidential cycle has proven, pets were a priority. From squirrels to raccoons, dogs, cats. I've never heard pets and animals referred to so often during the national campaign. Think of it, Nancy. When I ran for mayor and we talked about all the cats that you rescue and we raise, they made fun of us. They made fun of us. Now it's sort of like they all want to be that 4 years later. And that's a good thing because people are understanding, as the Pew Research poll recently indicated, 97% of Americans view the animals that they share space with in their homes or are outdoor or feral as family members. 97%. It doesn't matter if they supported Trump, Harris.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, I mean, you probably spend more time interacting with your pets than you do with most people. So, I mean, it does make sense. You're closer to them than you are to most people.
And then I approach people when they give me a hard time. Oh, you're a cat man. I said, you like Mark Twain, the greatest author in American history? Yeah. He had 18 cats, huh? Oh, I didn't know that. You like Hemingway, one of the great authors in American history? Is anyone more macho than Hemingway? Oh, yeah, I love Hemingway. He dedicated his home in the Keys in Florida to cats. You go to the Hemingway house, there are all cats there living now. He bequeathed that. So you want to come and give me a hard time for being a cat man because Nancy introduced me into that life? I'll punch your schnoz right down your throat. Isn't that a great Thanksgiving Day wish to all of those detractors?
And send it to people. This is great.
Oh, yeah. As we continue on, it's our family day here because you are our family, our extended family here on WABC. Brought to you by Nancy, who is in Pennsylvania, yours truly here in New York. And it's all part of the family put together by John and Margot Katzimatidis, WABC.
The Staten Island law firm of Angiuli and Gentili, helping people just like you for over 39 years. Call today, 718-816-0005, 718-816-0005, aglawnyc.com. Angiuli and Gentili, walk with confidence.
1-877 Cars for Kids, KARS Cars for Kids, 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Donate today at carsforkids.org. That's cars with a K. Your car can be picked up as soon as the next day. Receive a tax deduction and vacation voucher.
1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Now accepting donations of land, homes, buildings, or any kind of real estate.
Entertaining talk for New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and the world. An American original. Talk Radio 77 WABC and WABCRadio.com.
Are you feeling the impact of recent timeshare industry changes? Now more than ever, the costs of timeshare ownership far outweigh the benefits. My friends at Lone Star Transfer are the only company I trust to help you get out. Our listeners' positive feedback demonstrates why I've supported the company for years. For more than a decade, they have helped over 20,000 owners get out of the timeshare. Their exclusive options can help you get out faster and easier, more than any other option in the country. They are the only company that will give you a written guarantee and release you from your timeshare in a specific time frame. With an A-plus rating at the Better Business Bureau, and thousands of five-star reviews, customer service is their top priority. For free consultation and a guaranteed solution, please call 855-551-7066. That's 855-551-7066, or go to LoneStarTransfer.com.
Check this out.
No one knows New York better. The founder of the Guardian Angels, Curtis Sliwa.
And you can't compete against that.
On 77 WABC. Now to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa.
From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. From the mountains to the prairies to the ocean, white with calm. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet
Let's hope with the election of Donald Trump and the return of patriotism and patriotic pride and the removal of all this DEI crap that we restore Kate Smith's God Bless America rendition, as George Steinbrenner Sr. had requested, to Yankee Stadium, the seventh inning stretch. It used to be, Nancy, I know you were in the cheap seats, the nosebleed section at the old Yankee Stadium. I was also. You'd look across to the owner's box and you would see two German Americans sitting side by side. Who knew that Donald Trump, one of them, would be president? George Steinbrenner, owner of the most famous sports franchise in the history of the world. And that would play during the seventh inning stretch. And wouldn't it be great if it would return? Because it was during the era of Black Lives Matter. Oh, yeah, that terrible summer of 2020. In which everything that was sacred to us, sacrosanct, patriotic, was torn to shreds and eliminated. And it'd be great if we could return that, because I know everybody in that stadium, Nancy, remember, everybody would snap to attention and they looked forward to that rendition of God Bless America.
Yeah, it was a different day after they changed that, and not the same feeling of obviously patriotism, but it's nice to keep the traditions. I mean, that's what makes it so memorable when you go there, because you're accustomed and you want to see certain things and you want to have those same memories. So, yeah, I don't like when they change things for no reason like that.
And it transitioned the generations. I mean, you could be young and listen to that and know it was so patriotic. Anyway, let's go back to the phones, because this is our outreach that we, the Sliwas, do to all of you on these holidays when so many of you are, I'm not going to call it a victim, or maybe forced into social isolation because you're on your own. You can't be with the ones you love, or maybe they're no longer around, or maybe you're infirm, you're elderly, you're ailing, you're sight challenged, so many things that normally, you wouldn't think twice about it. But boy, on these special occasions, it really hits home. And just know you have a family away from your traditional family, and we're always here at WABC. Let's go to Lily in Queens. Your turn to be heard, Lily.
I love that you and Nancy do that for the people that are alone. I do things like that too, Curtis. But most of all, I appreciate what you're doing. And I talked to you quite a few times, but I'm begging to talk to Nancy about if she ever got that Tony Bennett book.
The Tony Bennett book. I'll tell you what.
His autobiography.
That's another name and number you take there, Mr. Phone Screener. Oh, well, boy, we got a lot of work here on a holiday, Nancy. A lot of people to get back to.
Hopefully we have that book there.
Let's go to Angel calling from Staten Island. Happy Thanksgiving, Angel.
Curtis, I want to tell you I love you. I think you're an amazing person, and you really, truly are a guardian angel. And I look forward to your shows, like you're on every day. So I really look forward to it. I'm alone. My mother passed away last year. That was my last family member I had. And so, you know, I'm spending today alone. And I really appreciate the fact that you came on and you're bringing happiness and love and light to the planet. And I also appreciate that you're a voice for the voiceless, for the animals. And I just have a lot of respect for you, Curtis, that you stand up for people's rights and for the downtrodden. You're an amazing soul, and there's hardly anybody like you on this planet. So,
well, I tell you, on how all of that came about with the animals. I always had animals growing up in Canarsie, dogs and cats in the basement, but the cats were really more because they kept the mice and the rats away out of the basement. That's what my grandfather, Fidel Bianchino, would say. Hey, you don't want mice, you don't want rats, you got cats. I was more of a dog guy. But when I met Nancy and I saw her walking down the alleyways of Sunset Park in Brooklyn, where she was living at that time, and she would make a sound, and cats would come running from everywhere, off rooftops of garages, out of alleyways, and they would assemble around her. It was like the female version of Dr. Dolittle. It was amazing. And I began to learn how all these different cats had their own personalities. All of them, different personalities. Not two of them the same. And I thank you for that, Nancy, because then it just caused me to dedicate another aspect of my life to helping you in your mission to save all of these animals, dogs, cats, and others who get slaughtered in our shelters, because unfortunately we still will euthanize and destroy animals who could easily have a home of their own.
I mean, it's such an important cause, and certainly it's a fight that needs to be fought because, you know, there's a lot of blowback against it. So when you have strong voices like yourself who can really get the message out in such a meaningful way, it really, you know, helps so much. So thank you for that, Curtis.
Oh, but think of it. This cycle is here. Look at President Donald Trump. He never had a pet in his life. He was not pet friendly. He was the first president never to have a pet. And yet, here he was in the middle of Springfield, Ohio, in the middle of the campaign, talking about how we have to protect cats and dogs from predators. And then we see the squirrel and the raccoon. And let's not forget Freddie the raccoon, right? Because these agents stormed into this animal sanctuary and took the both of them away and basically kidnapped them and murdered them. And everybody, the whole world woke up and said, what the hell are you doing? Who? These animals didn't bother anybody.
I mean, it's hard enough trying to do all of the legwork to help them in the first place, so you can't have the government working against those efforts.
It was, I've never seen anything like this, such a turnabout, because generally people who were considered, friendly towards animal concerns or would put animals at the same level as people were considered odd. It would say eccentric, to be kind, crazy. And now all of a sudden, it's not the way it is anymore.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it's such a lost opportunity that more of the city municipalities really haven't recognized this incredible group of people out there who are volunteering their time, their money, their efforts to do these this good work with these animals in need. And the fact that that they continue to be marginalized instead of bringing everyone under an umbrella, so much can be done if we're working together and acknowledging it.
You know, we talk oftentimes about the bad times here in New York City, and they're sure bad. You walk down to Madison Avenue, so many of the storefronts are covered up with the kind of butcher wrap paper that you would take chop meat home in. I mean, it's so cheap the way they just cover up the windows. And you would say, wait a second, instead of euthanizing dogs and cats in these shelters that are primitive, that don't have space, there's plenty of space now, let's put them in the windows. As people walk up and down Madison Avenue, they'll spot a dog or a cat or maybe a few that they want to take home themselves with the concept, if you can't handle it, if it's too much for you, just bring the dog or the cat back. Don't surrender it to a kill shelter. I mean, all the good in the world. And people will feel good about that. They'll feel, when they see dogs and cats in a window, they feel good about that, even if they decide they can't have one for their own.
I mean, and that's how you really develop a relationship in the first place. Like, what makes you want to adopt a pet? There has to be some sort of, connection, and it can come from, just meeting them the one time. But really, you see their face a few times. It just makes you think about it, how much you love them, how much you want to incorporate them into your life. So, it's true. The more you can get them in front of the public at large, the better it is for them, and the easier you're making it for people to adopt. I mean, why make people go through all these hurdles to try to find a way to have a pet that really needs a home?
Think of it right now. There are people looking at their family member, a cat or dog, or another pet, and it's all that they have. During the lockdown and pandemic, when people were forced to be shut-ins because our government had them afraid to go outside, had them afraid to socialize, had them afraid to be within proximity of other people, they would return to their home, and the only thing that they could socialize with were their pets. And now we recognize how important those animals were to keeping us sane, to having something in our homes that we could relate to, that we could love, that we could share with, that we could enjoy. And boy, I'm telling you, the lockdown and pandemic had a lot of negative side effects. But the best effect was we recognize the importance of animals to the human community.
Absolutely.
Right now, I know some of you are looking at your very dogs and cats that are in your apartments or in your homes, and you're saying, Curtis and Nancy are absolutely right. It's just me and you. That's it. And in fact, let's face it, Nancy, there are some people listening to us which much prefer to be with their dogs and cats than with their relatives, extended relatives, their crazy uncle, grandparents, husbands or wives who have gone in different directions. The one thing you know about these animals is they are loyal. Loyal.
Yes.
I mean, loyal. In fact, we're even talking now about people getting sick time to take care of their pets, and there's not a lot of blowback to that. You would have said that 4 years ago. Oh, we want you to have sick time for pet care, and they would have said, are you out of your mind? Now it's like, no, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a sentiment that's been a long time coming. I mean, people feel this way. It's about time it's being acknowledged formally.
The pet will never abandon you. As many of you know, you're watching your terrestrial radio. You're listening to it on the app, on your smartphone and iPhone. People will abandon you. You know that. Some of those that you love the most will abandon you and disappoint you. Your pets never will. They're always there through good times and bad times.
It's the Rip and Read.
Talking about
Featuring Curtis Sliwa. Talk Radio 77 WABC. Now to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa.
Curtis doesn't know about you, but he rips and reads.
This is the Rip and Read.
This is the WABC family. All of you are part of all of us here with our live and local programming. We will not forsake you nor abandon you.
I got all my sisters with me. We are family.
24/7, 365. It's live and local programming during the best of times and oftentimes during these times of social isolation when it's dark and dreary and drizzly. Everyone else is in a celebratory mood and you're stuck at home for whatever reason. No, don't think of it that way. We're connected directly to you, your mind, heart, and soul. And with I and Nancy, we carry on this tradition that we started years ago to be here every holiday for all of you. Let's go to Carl on the east side. Your turn to be heard, Carl.
Curtis, to you and Nancy, wish you health and a happy holiday. We have a cat at home. She just got operated on. She had breast cancer, and they did it. She's got a pretty big scar, about an 8-inch scar, and she's recuperating. She's in her basket, and they're so noble, and they're so good, and they just want to live life. And I just appreciate what you're doing because they do mean a lot, and they teach us. As we go through it with them, they teach us about life.
And notice, Carl, how important they are, that veterinarians and other services that were only provided to humans in their time of physical and even mental need are now provided to our pets so that that cat has a chance to live. Years ago, there would have been no hope, Carl. There would have been no hope. So enjoy your furry little friend there, because that furry little friend will be grateful to you for all of time. Let's go to Walker in Paramus. Your turn to be heard, Walker.
Curtis, Nancy, happy Thanksgiving. Every day is Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
One thing. Thank you. They had a giant humpback whale in the East River this past week. And for the last 4 years, every time you heard the story about a whale, it was dead or washed up. This one wasn't. This is great.
This is magnificent. There used to be whales that would swim up the Hudson River from the ocean. One thing Donald Trump has said is he is going to cease and desist the building of these windmills off the Jersey Shore, off the South Shore of Long Island, which have led to the scarring, maiming, untimely deaths of not just a variety of whales, Walker, but porpoises and dolphins and other fish and birds. I mean, it's horrific, and we get very little benefits. It's not like you get a lot of wattage out of it, like it's generating a lot of electricity.
Oh, it's expensive electricity.
It is, and it's about time with Donald Trump in office that we may see an end to that. Imagine, ladies and gentlemen, just imagine, because you can't see many of these offshore windmills. They are the size of the Chrysler Building, embedded into the sea ground with dynamite charges. It throws off the guidance, the global positioning system of all these magnificent creatures, the whales, the porpoises, the dolphins, and they die horrible deaths. And what do we get in return, Nancy? Very little electricity. And it costs a lot of money, and it causes a lot of grief to a lot of God's great creatures in the sea and the many birds who die just getting chopped apart by those windmills.
I mean, how much the ocean makes up the earth, to be doing something that destroys that very environment is just a horrible idea.
I love the fact, if you saw that picture of that humpback whale in the East River, frolicking, enjoying the East River, as it was for centuries. until we polluted it, made it undesirable for any fish, never mind a whale. And now we're recovering. We're recovering what we spoiled. But I want you, Nancy, to enjoy the rest of your day with your family in Pennsylvania. I'll soldier away here at WABC as our live local programming continues. Greg Kelly up next, Dominic Carter, no days off, and then James Golden. We continue on.